Sorry to cut you off. I do. Okay, we just gone live. So in today's the title of the live today, I was titling it as The Holy Mountain of Awakening, Freaky Friday Talk number 3. So we were weaving from the last week. It's about intimacy in digital age. We were talking about the horror movie, but we were also saying that's not really a sci-fi movie anymore, given that it's pretty much become true with how fast AI has been going on. And it's just after COVID, how more comfortable people feel with digital tools, being a way of communication. So there was that movie, and then Mario Supreme, The Cost of Following Your Ambition, was the first movie we talk about, and then we can see how it ends with like something connecting to something, opening yourself up, and seeing that there is a bigger aspect that you can live for. So those movies, we may do some maneuvers when we are talking about it to connect with awakening, but this movie we're talking about this week, Holy Mountain, is just straight up about awakening, like as literal as it gets. It's about awakening. It's like there's rituals of alchemical transmutation. There's literally of climbing the mountain to reach immortality or reach um, the end of the path.
Do
Things
you
like
think we should talk about the ending?
that.
Should
Yeah,
we it doesn't matter if we spell the ending, right? Even
I
like
think
now?
yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
Oh, I think we should maybe somewhere during the show the ending when the
Yeah, yeah.
alchemists tell people to, I mean, tell us breaking the fourth wall to like zoom out the camera. Um, I don't
Uh,
know if we show that now or later. Doesn't matter, I don't think. But I think that was very similar to Marty Supreme in a sense because it's almost like, oh, all this climbing of the mountains, want to be this or that, accumulate all these experiences. But at the end, for Marty Supreme, is going back to the most basic thing, wife and kids. And then
Real
in
life
Holy Mountain,
awakening. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, in Holy Mountain, there's a bit different ways to interpret it. I can get into all the whole like metacognition, zooming out, meta, or breaking the fourth wall. But another way to interpret it is, oh, actually, we just saw this crazy shit that we don't understand. But hey, the real awakening is like real life, quote unquote. I'll go back to your life. The normal stuff is the divine. We can interpret it many different ways, but
Yeah.
um, the
Yeah,
last thing
there's a
when
lot
he
in
zooms
there.
out.
But before we do that, let me give a
Yeah,
shout
yeah.
out to
Let me
three of
get
our guests today.
too ahead of myself.
Yeah. Shout out three of our guests of today. We got a returners from Janik from the last time. I think Janik also watched Holy Mountain 2 days ago or something like that for the first time.
Yep.
I also invite Tim and invite Alex. I think Tim just finished watching it on 1.5 speed. Uh, Alex, I remember you said you watched it before, right? And you just rewatch it again.
Yeah, I think I rewatched it before while super stoned, and so I only remember the excrement scene
Oh,
when yeah, the guy has to inhale his own excrement, and then in the process, like it turns into gold.
I see, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're here also. I was posting on Insta today that we are finishing week 6 of this current boot camp. It's first time for Janik, second time for Tim and Alex. I think usually in the CC context, we're talking about how it's also a similar process, facing your own shadow, paying homage to your afflictions, like the worst part, so-called the most unrefined aspect. Can we inhale that and turn that into from affliction into wisdom?
Yeah. Transmutation, alchemy. It's like flipping, not even flipping, just seeing karma as dharma or seeing affliction as suchness, or we say suchness with stains. There's a transformation, sure, but on the more ultimate level, it's just a view refinement, right? If you have the right view, karma is dharma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
But if you
and
experience your affliction through or obscuration or anything through the self view, then it's karma. Yeah.
I think like this
But
movie is
there is a
also quite
transformation.
rich with symbolism. Tim was mentioning some of it about um, you were saying the anagram, or no, the Gajif symbol, which is the line that make the anagrams, and a lot of
Mm.
psychoanalytic aspect of it. I was also talking before we go live about how I'm also reading the autobiography book, Dance of Reality, in which he details his childhood, I've just been reading a little bit, and also like some of these comic books. So Jodorowsky is one of the artists that I think is quite influential, and it's not in the way that we usually think in terms of movie makers, of just like like a director in part of the industry, and they're part of this bigger agendas of how to make movies, and you must follow certain scripts and certain templates. What I appreciate about Jodorowsky is seems to be the case. He just does whatever the fuck he wants. Like this is what I want,
Mhm.
and I want to do that thing. And if it's not like what I want, I won't do it. And it's kind of explained, given how crazy his childhood was and how he was growing up in. It's pretty fantastic.
Can you tell us a little bit about his childhood?
Yeah, so from what I understand, his roots was from he's Ukrainian Jew, and when the shit was going down with the Soviet Russian in the 1920s, and a whole thing was uh, running amok, his family moved to Chile. So he was growing up and being seen as just like this Jew boy who looks very different. So he got bullied. His dad, even though they don't want to live in Russia, his dad was still idolizing Stalin. Maybe I'm wrong on the part that his family doesn't want to live in Russia. It's just that for whatever reason they moved to Chile, cut from the roots, and they are fending for themselves. So his dad was a merchant, and he wants to be able to generate like a lot of scene um, to be able to sell his stuff. So they only have performers in. It's a very, very small town, but like rich of a lot of different culture. So we got people that is English, bring the Rosicrucians and the Freemason materials in. We got the Greeks who bring Odysseys in. We got China. We got Chinese in that town. We bring Taoism in, and all these hot pot. Just a small little city called Tocopilla, as or Pico, probably butchering the word. But it's all this small town in the middle of Chile. It's just the condensation of all these different understanding. And he even got a theosophist in that town, which initiates him into certain things.
Mhm.
And I can read a certain subtext from that, a passage from that. Let me see.
Well, apparently, I did some research on the movie yesterday, and apparently, just like Tim mentioned earlier, the whole crew, well, not only did they take psychedelics to certain scenes, they went through 3 months, just like the boot camp, actually. They went through
Yeah,
intensive training to prepare for the film. They did like Zen practices, yoga, uh, I don't know what else they did. What else did they do? And they also like read Jajif. Um,
achieve. Yeah.
Yeah. So the director himself, I can't pronounce his name, but he was also a practitioner, and I think John Lennon is one of the writers. And John Lennon, of course, apparently during that time they just got back from like visiting this yogi who invented transcendental meditation. Like they were all about enlightenment, right? So it's heavily influenced by spirituality in the 70s. A lot of acid. Mm.
Yeah.
I think he was advised to take acid to finish the movie by like his teacher was Oscar, or at that time was Oscar Ichazo.
Hmm.
And he was like, yeah, you need to take acid to finish this, to get the spiritual insights necessary to finish this film.
Yeah. Apparently, he had to put himself in a very spiritual dance mindset, right? Not just throughout the filming of the movie, but before to get into that mindset.
But I would venture to say there's also a scene in the movie where they very much explicitly specify that there is an escape route through drugs and fantasy. Because even if we see the scene, right, it's just
Even in
like,
the movie, they talked about it.
yeah, in the movie, there was a scene where the guys try to skip the actual mountain by just doing the psychedelic.
Yep.
And the movie
Mhm.
says like, oh, Christ consciousness can be found in this pill. Just take the pill. And it's literally
Mhm.
clear saying, no, that's not the case. Don't skip steps. But we can talk about it later. So
Yeah.
I was reading some of his here, and essentially he was also sharing a kind of an experience of from the perspective of being a child, having a vision of meeting him but older. Like an old Jodorowsky come back to talk to a young Jodorowsky who was very much lonely and didn't feel like he belonged anywhere and didn't feel like he was receiving love from his family. So here's what he say. I was there seeing the mental limitation of the people around you. The old Alejandro said to me, they saw the material war, the pieces, the filth that you put up, but not the art, the beauty, the magical, magic. Those things was lost to them. And yet rejoice in this suffering. Thanks to it, you have met me. The greater one's wisdom, the greater one's pain. This is a quote from the Bible he put. But I tell you, only he who knows pain can approach wisdom. I cannot tell you that I have achieved wisdom. I am no more than a step along the path of the Spirit who is traveling towards the end of time. Who will I be 3 centuries from now, or what will I be? What forms will serve as my vessel? In 10 million years, will my consciousness still need a body? Will I still have to use sensory organs? After hundreds of millions of years, we'll continue dividing the unity of the world into sight, sound, smell, taste, tactile images. Will I be an individual, a collective being? Once I have known all of the universes or universes, when I have arrived at the end of the own time, when the expansion of matter stops, and with it I begin the journey back towards the point of origin, will I dissolve in it? Will I become the mystery that surrounds time and space? Will I discover that the creator is a memory with no present or future? You, as a child, I, an old man, will we not have been merely memories, insubstantial images, without having had the least reality? For you, I do not exist yet. For me, you do not exist anymore. And when our story is told, he who tells it will be nothing but a string of words escaping out of a pile of ashes. Those kind of shit. Pretty cool. So, what do you guys think about the movie? What stood out for you?
So yeah, there's 9 main characters in the movie, and those 9 characters represent the 9 different aspects of the Enneagram. And the Enneagram is based on your basic ego fixation and like what your greatest fear is, and then the layers that you like create your identity based on that. And then like it's like systematic to where it shows your point of growth and your point of, let's say, resistance. And so like the movie is playing out like all the symbolism of the fixations, of like the distortions that any one of those types can go through, and is very heavy in the first half of the movie in terms of like ritualistic symbolism, esoteric symbolism, and then the second half is really just exploring like how those characters and like what the sort of the trips, the side quests that you can get lost on in the spiritual path. But yeah, it was I guess it's meant to be like shocking. It kind of reminds me of like Frank stuff, early day Frank stuff, where it's like very shocking. They're supposed to be, has that shock factor. But yeah, I mean, I felt all the things for sure. Like I felt the shock, I felt the grotesque, I felt the all those emotions or those feelings actually that came with that. So it was really interesting to just be made to feel those things from this movie. A lot of sex and lust and all that stuff too, which were just very powerful. But these are like all these primordial forces of I guess of humanity that are being channeled through this film. So it's really kind of beautiful in that way.
Yeah, I also think it's really funny because like or that you mentioned my video, I think a lot of my videos were like really surreal. I just tried as hard as I could to make it like fucked up, like I might fuck you, but it's also like really funny. But it's almost like a troll. It's like almost like a very self-aware in the sense that
Yeah.
it's like a satire, especially at the end. It's like, oh, this is a crazy holy mountain trip. You don't know what's going on, but it seems really deep at the end. They zoom out, and then it's just a movie. It's like, oh, is that what the spiritual journey is about? Because we talk about self-invalidating everything, right? Including the spiritual journey. So I don't know if he actually thought about that when he decided to do that. But even back then when I was making films, there's a lot of elements. I remember that from my first film in art school, I didn't know anything about making videos. But then for some reason, I just had this inclination to like zoom out of screens. Not just one screen, but infinite screens. I just go, okay, this is the edge of this reality. What do? Let's zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. The whole movie is just like and it connects back to the beginning, almost like causing a causal loop of cognition. So that element it's been circling in my mind even before I got into Awakening. But I do think a lot of artists play around with that, right? When every time you make art, you're creating a reality, a container, right? But then if you keep exploring what that container is, you're gonna eventually reach the edge. And when we talk about like being in presence in the training that we're doing, we're talking about reaching the edge of the being, right? But then what's the edge of the being? You realize that's where cognition closes the loop on itself. ultimately there's nothing to zoom out of, right? That's what I realized too. It's like you keep zooming out, but then you right back to where you started. Or like when you zoom like this, it's like instantaneously the cognition loop closes onto itself, like the universe eating itself, or like that. We use the analogy of the donut, the 4D donut, or like the taro. What is it called? That's 4D shape. What is it called, Alex? Taro?
Taurus.
Torus.
Polaroid.
Yeah, the torus. Yeah, the torus thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that just
So
points to
that
like
that element of
singularity,
like
right?
going
Like
meta.
there's a
Yeah,
point of
yeah,
singularity that
singularity.
you have to experience through, no matter like where the experiences are coming through. Like they have to go through your experience of that singularity.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of painters that also play around with that edge of reality. What do you do when you reach the edge? There's another thing that's watching that frame and then watching that frame, not watching that frame.
It kind of reminds me of Khan's what he just read earlier about how it was almost talking about like God and presence in that statement that you shared earlier, Khan. And it's like it's interesting that he's able to speak from that space, talking about like God doesn't have memory and things like that. Yeah, it's very directly insightful.
Also,
One of
this thing where the immortals were seen to be just the puppets or like mannequins. Even the immortals, you climb all the way to the top of the mountain and meeting the immortal, they're just like mannequins. So what does
Yeah.
that mean? And yeah, there's also like a statement about like it's all just images. I thought that was pretty profound. It's not like it's all an illusion. It's like, oh, actually,
Images.
the
Yeah.
illusion is the truth. Like there's nothing behind appearances. Appearance is source. So you go non-dual.
Yeah, there was a couple of moments where it's very visceral and literal what was trying to say, right? I think like it's on the boat and somebody who having nostalgic or like remembering his friend,
Mhm.
but every other crew members were seeing like that guy's hallucinating right now. But the guy was
Mm.
like, you asking me to throw my friend out of the boat, but he's like, throw that out of the boat, like you are hallucinating right now. But he had to do it. All the other moments where it's like, you don't need me anymore. You have proved to yourself you don't need a master. Kill me now. And he killed it, and then he go through with it. But then it was a sacrifice, and then they continued the journey together. So there's all this rich symbolism. But I was typing out. I was quite surprised about how literal. Also, some of the thing is, like it's really literal about like Venus got corrupted into beauty and aesthetic, but then it should become like performative beauty. It's like how like they say literally you want a face, you got a face, you want the next face, you got the face, and it industrialize or commoditize everything. Commoditize Mars into a weapon that is beautiful. Like you got a Buddhist gun, things like that. It's kind of funny. Yeah.
Or like the scene where they're wearing prosthetics, like the calf prosthetics, the muscles
Mhm.
prosthetics. Yeah, yeah. It's like this whole film is symbolic, yeah, at the same time. Some of the symbols are literally like one to one. Okay, it
Yeah.
is symbolic, but at the same time, it's representing itself.
Yeah. Because this
Yeah.
movie was made in the 90, like early 1970s, right? So I reckon that plastic surgery was not as popular back then. But from the trajectories of that Venus force, now we can see is much more commonly accepted, much more being the case of you must look a certain way, girls or women chase an aesthetic, and that's like dictating by KOL, like the Kardashians or the Jenners, whichever is cool and hot. People then will meme that into literally their face. They will look like that face.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. What do you think, Alex? Alex said he saw it twice, right? The second time is what was that yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, this time around, I watched it with um the lens of a clarified view. I feel like so. I didn't even have any like grotesque reactions really. I was really watching the movie as it was and kind of seeing how it really the entire movie was a pure reflection of modernity. It feels
Mm,
like every single aspect was very well documented, just like all the ways that people go into the depths of all the sins and the what were you saying Tim earlier the anagram the nine aspects.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know too much about that, but it's kind of along the same lines, right? Of tying with the sins and
Yeah.
just um the the extreme trajectories of karmic being when it's shrouded in ignorance. Yeah.
It's like those archetypal forces of anthropomorphic karma.
Mm.
Yeah.
And what I found also interesting is kind of like um, for me there was also kind of like this aspect of evolution in there, like literal evolution, like starting from a very animalistic kind of being and then evolving first as a human or like evolving into a human,
Right.
like civilization. Then the film also showed like all the fucked up stuff of what it takes to build a civilization. There's a lot of sacrifice in there, a lot of ugliness. And then it transitions into the spiritual. And then at the end of the movie, that is kind of like flipped on its head. And also like this monkey, that chimpanzee, it comes back in the end. And it's like where we came from as humans is back at the end, like befriending the chimpanzee again, like where we are coming from, to not like think that we are somewhat superior or something like that. Like looking at the conceit, maybe, like some kind of pride. And yeah, those were some thoughts that I had.
I'm curious what
I
you
think
guys
there.
think. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think there was a quote by the director. He said, like, if you are mediocre, you're gonna think my movie is mediocre. If you think you are great, you're gonna think my movie is great. So this kind of ties back into the whole theme about how to watch this movie practically, right? It's almost like a practice. It's like it's not really about the story. Of course, you can analyze it to the nth degree, but like, what are your reactions when you watch it? Because it's kind of like working on your ego structure. Like maybe not try to like solve it. What does it mean? It's like observe your own conditionings through it. You know, like where are you amused? Where are you confused? Yeah, yeah. It's less about what does it mean, more about like what is it doing to me? Like where is my ontological framework getting poked at? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mirror.
Mhm.
So, for example, like if you are very religious, like maybe fundamentalist, and you see this movie, you're probably not going to watch this movie. But if you do, then you will probably be very pissed at like
Disturbed.
how Jesus is depicted or like any other religion, and it just shows you where your fixation is, and the movie just does it again and again, goes to more subtle and subtle levels. And as you were also saying earlier, like the for example, also the psychedelic trap of like thinking I can just take a lot of acid or whatever and it will just take me there instantly. Like I don't have to do any work. I can just consume something and it will take me there. That's also kind of like pointing out, especially like to the hippie culture at the time.
Spiritual materialism, I think, is a big theme.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But of course, the movie also doesn't say like that psychedelics are bad or anything like that. It's more like just pointing out that it can be a trap.
Mhm.
And then also the guy that says like he can cross
Horizontally, yeah.
yeah, right. And he's like so proud of himself that he can conquer the mountain in that way, but he's completely like
Literally
unaware.
bypassing, like the literal
Yeah,
passing of the path.
yeah,
Mhm. Mhm. I thought the character of the fool is kind of interesting because he's just like wandering around and he's like half homeless, half Christ-like. So it's almost like making this analogy or making a point about like, oh, everybody has a divine nature, right? But then we call him the fool, but he's not actually a fool, but he's just I guess you can call him like a more or less like a pure being or something like that. There's a lot of raw potential. That's why the alchemist chose to like work with him. But he's like foolishness is what gave him advantage because he's so naive of like maybe he can be trained by an alchemist and actually transcend.
yeah, yeah. And you could also say that he's pure in the sense that in the beginning he's very animalistic. Like he's
Mhm.
kind of like Tarzan style, like an ape. He's
Like the beast, like the spiritual beast, like there's this raw bestiality that we all have inside of us,
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
also
and
divine
that
at the same time. It's like that duality. It's like there,
yeah,
Christ, but beastly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of like outside of the realm of human morality.
Right,
Like
right.
because uh animals don't live in that realm of like human morality. They kill if they have to survive.
Mm. Mhm.
And so it's kind of pure in that way that, like, for example, killing or like being bestial isn't bad inherently. It's just kind of like,
Our nature. Yeah, it's just our
yeah,
nature.
yeah.
I wonder how much of this is the director working through his subconscious stuff too. Because at least the way I used to create, there's a lot of like I want to go as deep into my subconscious as possible and just bring out some ideas in order to like I guess work through it, not be afraid of my own subconscious and just to confront it. I think a lot of artists who explore the subconscious do have that intent, and it does work. It does exhaust a lot of your shadows by just expressing it this way artistically. What do you think, Tim, about the movie? You said you watched it today, right before the session, this session, and then you was watching it like what, 1.5 speed? You didn't have time, or I actually went online and tried to like look for like I guess critiques or reviews, analysis, but there's not a lot of analysis about this movie on YouTube. There's like 3 or 5 that I saw. I thought it was gonna be everywhere. Like all the big reviewers
Yeah,
are gonna be
I
like,
thought so
"Hey, Holy
too.
Mountain," but there
I thought
isn't a
so
lot.
famous.
It's actually a cult movie that nobody saw. Because it's like most people just can't sit through it. It's just almost like, oh, I know I gotta watch
Yeah.
this movie, but then they're talking about finally got to watch this movie, and then oh my God, it was like so boring. They just, people have all kinds of reaction, but people that
Mm.
reviewed it, most of them did recall not having a good time watching it, even though they really appreciate it. And there's just not a lot of people talking about this movie, even though it's like a very historical movie. So
Yeah, I was
this
surprised
video
by
might be
that.
one of the most more
Yeah.
coherent reviews out there. So, what do you
You
think,
know,
Tim?
like it's associated with John Lennon. It's associated with so many people. I heard it's historic, but it's like, oh, not a lot of people talk about it. That's pretty
Yep.
strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably too out there for many people.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it just flies under the radar because either you're getting triggered or you're bored, which is also kind of like it's a way of being triggered. Like you're dissociating in a way, like, oh, this is
Tune
boring.
out.
Yeah, right. Distancing yourself from it and not being able to like enjoy the ride. So yeah, and then like the like movie critics might look at it from a very analytical lens and like
Yeah,
maybe
how it was shot, how it was framed, yeah, things like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe
I
we.
remember the first time that I watched it, my initial reaction was like, "Oh, this is too much like my own mind, like on my own work. I think it's boring." Even like someone like me who's like really about that, or what used to be really about that, was like too almost too tricky in the sense it's almost like I rejected because like too much like myself.
Uh,
So it's like that movie triggers everyone, right? It's interesting. It's like too boring, too normal. I had that reaction, but there's like some conceit in there too, right?
yeah.
Wait, Frank, so watching that movie the first time, it triggers yourself because like that's the way your mind worked at the time, right?
Yeah. I don't think it triggered me. Well, I just didn't find it that interesting because even back then
Yeah.
when I was like really into like artsy, fine art films, I didn't like movies that are like too weird because yeah, I guess it was like I'm already like this, but I don't need to watch it. I prefer movies that are a little bit more grounded in reality. A lot of
Okay.
people find that surprising. Like the movies that I listed last time was like my top 3 movies are like Her and Lost in Translation, which is like just
Okay.
like no, it's almost like a you just going watch another person's life in modernity unfold without any editing anything. And the third is like Closer, which is just about relationship. It used to be a stage play. It turned into a movie.
Okay, so you found it boring because it was like a reflection of yourself. Because that's
Kind
that's
of,
what I was
yeah.
thinking the entire time, almost. When I was watching
You thought the same?
the Holy Mountain. Yeah, it's like I'm watching Frank's videos right now.
Oh, I thought you said you. I thought you said you kind of like
No,
reminded you of yourself.
no. That's it's not me for sure. That's
Oh, okay, okay.
not my internal world.
Mm.
But it like just watching the Holy Mountain, a lot of the scenery reminded me of
And the way
watching
people talk is like
your
the
videos.
excrement, like yeah, they
Yeah,
make it really
even
like
the way they
obnoxious.
even the way they talk and the way the director gets the actors to do certain things or the extras. Like I really like the scene with Neptune, the chief of police, that guy who he got a bunch of like half naked like his policemen or whatever to go like shut down a protest, right? And they're just holding finger guns, right? And then
Yeah.
they start
It's
pouring
really
blood on
absurd.
them, just like as if they're suppressing the protest and killing all the protesters, and then grabbing all the garbage out of their bodies, like their viscerals, their guts. And I was just
Mm.
thinking about your Tom Cruise video.
Mm. It's almost
Uh,
there's a lot of visceral elements in there, right?
yeah,
It's a movie about
yeah,
spirituality, but it's extremely visceral at the same time. But what I like about it is like it's almost like it's making fun of itself. Well, it's making fun of art in general, or it's making fun of the very genre that people think it's about. Oh, it's about spirituality. Oh, it's actually making fun of spirituality. Even the last scene is like, oh,
Okay.
this whole thing is just a scam. Or even the way people are like, like, oh, this is your excrement turned to gold. Like the way they speak, it's just like, is this guy serious? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's
Because if it's completely serious, it's just like too pretentious. But then he has to like turn that thing around, make it almost funny and like self-satire, self-aware. Like I think that's kind of interesting.
yeah, but I think it's also a good portrayal of essentially what happens in, I guess, spirituality too, where there are certain things that people are kind of hidden away from because it's too like ontologically shocking. And so for a modern being, a modern person, just on like most of the movie, it's pretty normal, right? It's like normal stuff, like people having sex, people taking shit, and then like they're doing weird stuff with it. I'm sure that all of that happens behind closed doors somewhere,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Mm, mm,
But no one ever sees that. And so when it's shown, it's ontologically shocking. But
interesting.
yeah, the same can be said for the spiritual path, like the process of being on it, you're going to be asked to be confronted with uncomfortable things.
What do you make of it, Tim?
Yeah.
In what sense?
I don't know, just the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's an introduction into esoteric. Like if you can watch, I think like your attention is the most important thing that you have really. And so it's like if you can get captured by that film, then you're already processing a lot of things that you're not aware of. I mean, the whole beginning of it, like the thief is represents like the primal unconscious, and then like he breaks through the white wall, and then like this represents like his maybe potentially represents like his awakening in some sense, like his conscious, and then becomes like the transmutation and all that stuff. So it's like these themes, like they speak to us on a subconscious level. Like we may not understand it consciously, we may not be there consciously, but it's already happening. So I think in some way it is also like a message, like a transmission. Like even if you can't get it, you're still seeing these themes, and then you can see these themes play out in your life as far as like archetypes, trajectories, and like with the encoding of the Enneagram and like those 9 characters and like this personification of the planets, that's all esoteric as well. And like the personification of the tarot, that's all esoteric as well. But these all represent archetypical aspects of us. So like we have all these things inside of us. And so that means we can see all these things in other people. It just depends on the amount of exposure we've had to them. And so like the things that we don't want to see about ourselves, we see that in other people. And there's like this archetypical reflection that we're getting exposed to. So like all these things are happening inside this movie as you watch this movie. If you can make it through the entire movie, it's like a very like Frank said, it's like a causal loop. You can see like the whole journey of growth and development and all the traps and everything like that. And then when it zooms out, it's like, okay, like this is just these are just images, and like you have to go live your life now. So it's like in that way, it's in the same genre as what Frank is like the mind fuck. And so like it is very kind of explosive in a lot of senses. But I think it is to capture your attention so that you can make it through different parts of the movie. It's like it's just like piquing your attention and then like taking you through other parts. And so yeah, I think it's very well produced and developed as a film. Like if you're ready to watch it, it can do a lot.
Yeah. And also, I think all the critiques are valid too. It's like we can say this whole thing is just a scam. That's valid too. We can analyze it with the symbolisms and the stages of awakening, alchemism, whatever. And all this analysis could also be correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a multifractal mirror, just like reality.
The movie is very aware in regarding to the falsity of substantiating there is a true immortal up in the mountain, wait for you to kill.
Mhm.
You take their elixir or something like that, right? It's quite visceral that you kill the master, he's like he bounds, and then that group come up to that table of 9 or something like that and just stuff mannequin, right? And like the one of the removal and the revealing was the master was there all along. Well, it's almost like this trippy about, in order to get to the other shore, first you must be scammed. You must be scammed based on your afflictions, because like the industrialist was greedy, right? I was thinking like at first, like, okay, you have accomplished the common success, like they was top of the industry, they were rich, they got fame, all these things, and now you must reach immortality. You must reach like the true essence of things. And they asked to like burn their self-image. Literally, they burn their self-image and they burn their money. Like the two things that tie them into materialistic existence. Your sense of who you are and your accumulation of a metrics of success, money. All of them burn it. And then I see that, okay, got asked to actually go on that experience, the diversion, distracting things that we talk about, and then even get tests of some guy got chopped his fingers, right? I was like, oh, I've got to this point, my body's still not listen to me. After all these things, it still want to come back. And through all that, and then he willing to do it, go for it. Real sacrifice in that way reminds me of the Zen thing. They chop half like his arm off to accomplish the Dharma. And to get to that moment, to then see that this whole endeavor of seeing, believing there is a true, more rich reality somewhere beyond is both a scam and also genuine at the same time. Because you do have to go through that journey. You have to do the work to then invalidate the work. So it's a really interesting thing.
You have to stand on the ground in order to invalidate it, and you stand on the next ground, and then from that ground you validate the previous
because
and then ultimately the ground invalidate itself. But then you have to have a ground to start with, or else it's going to be like non-dual zombies that has nothing to invalidate. Or
I think because the movie also point out some of the ways that practitioner got trapped, right? We got the psychedelic shortcut thing. We got the people that bypass the whole thing. We got people that just talk about it but doesn't do anything. Yeah, so it's really interesting. But I would say for me, I would say the part that's actually really touching for me is the prostitute and the chimpanzee, that they also find a way to keep going with the guy. I find it really touching because it's almost
she just keeps following her.
What's that?
She keeps following him, right?
She keeps following him. It's touching for me because it reminds my dynamic with my wife. Whereas like I'm this crazy guy who just wants to, like in Vietnam, just like fuck everybody. We're gonna go find the immortal people. They're over there. I want to go find it. And she just tag along. She doesn't understand what I'm trying to do for the most part. But for whatever reason, she just chug along. She just find her own way to keep going with me. So that part was generally what's touched me the most. Because then the master say like you actually don't need to climb the mountain. It's fine. Just come back and be with her.
It's kind of like the devotional path. It's like you're not doing all these techniques and like refined work, like the spiritual work. You are just devoted to something and you go all the way. And then it's the same destination as the guys that do all the spiritual work.
Yeah, so it's like there's this imageries where the whole crew is on a boat, right? They're on the boat, and there's just this tiny wooden boat thing, and they just she also have to paddle it herself, and the other guys like they're on this big boat and all that. I find it really touching, actually.
I think also that like they didn't go to the mountains, right? Like think the master, the alchemist, was telling him that you don't have to go to the mountain. Just
So the thief, the fool, didn't go to the mountain. The rest of the industrialists did went to the mountain with the master. But right at the base of the mountain, he asked the guy like, "Did you guys remember what was the addressment of like you don't need to go further or something like that?" I kind of slipped my mind right now, but I just remember the instruction is you don't need to. You should go with her.
Yeah.
I think he
guess
said
that
you can
kinda-
find eternity through. He's like, just go like make love and have a family. And it's like you can find eternity through that or something like that.
Yeah. That's what I remember.
Yeah, the disappearing of Dharma into
Mhm. Yeah.
just life.
That ties into the not just the Marty Supreme, but like my own journey, like dating a stripper. It's like some people like talk shit, oh, this is low, blah blah blah. But hey, as long as I'm happy, that is whatever. I guess that reminded me of that, right?
Yeah, she's a prostitute.
She's
In the
literally
movie.
a prostitute in the
Yeah.
credit, in the title.
Oh, she's a real prostitute. Yeah.
Oh, she's a real prostitute in real life?
No, just in the credit. I'm just saying like she's a prostitute. She's actually a
The
prostitute.
character is
Oh,
known
yeah,
as a prostitute.
Yeah, she played the karma of like, you know, the stripper karma, prostitute karma, right? Yeah. I'm
Mhm.
always really attracted to that kind of karma, right? Like, or
Mm.
like, I'm not saying they're the same, but like homeless people or like drug addicts, people on skid roads, that kind of karma really fascinates me.
Mm.
Sometimes I look at these people, I'm just like, man, this whole enlightenment thing, like, those people are in some way get it more than we do. They're just like kind of pure in a sense.
I mean,
Of
that's kind
course,
of like
that's
a lot of supposed Jesus teaching about that, right? It's like the
yeah,
downtrodden.
yeah, prostitutes and the outcasts, yeah, the people that are at the edge of society. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
There's
that
something to that.
can also like, especially for like homeless people, can very much relate to like losing a sense of identity because
Right,
you're an
exactly.
outcast.
Mhm.
So you lose that identity that is tied to certain roles in society. I mean, of course, like homeless person can also be a role. So, but yeah, I think like many of them can have like an awakening through the process.
Mm.
I would imagine, like I can't speak from experience, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I used to take pictures of homeless people or like drug addicts, their like their face, a lot of them, their eyes look like really empty. Sometimes I call it like reverse enlightenment.
Well, it's kind of nihilistic, right? If you're a drug addict. And it kind of reminds me of that scene where he throws his monkey friend, or not his monkey friend, his friend off of the boat. It's
Mm.
like, oh, just get rid of him. But it's also like it points to a nihilistic type of like view on what to do with your attachments. And I also looked at like the first scene when he met the prostitute was actually like I felt that connection of like that romantic interest or whatever. I was like, oh wow, like I could feel that through this movie. And then I could feel her attachment to him throughout the movie too. Like as she was falling, I could feel that attachment. I was like, oh wow, this is like a
Right,
beautiful
Yeah.
attachment. So yeah, it was really beautiful in that sense. It was really like to be able to
Yeah.
feel those things from that movie, and just there's so many elements. Yeah, it's so rich.
Yeah, that's a great point about like this aspect of attachment. How do we handle the love that we receive or the love we have for others? I think, like Tim was saying, there is an attachment that, or the love, the devotion that the prostitute have for the thief, and there's also the hallucination of the thief for his old friend. And it's almost that the master have to decide to cut him from his illusion, but also to point him to like, hey, this is like so-called real love. Do something about this. That's I think that's handling is very nuanced because it's not like just like you have to cut everything, right? And just go for there, even though there's clearly there is love for that from the girl and the chimpanzee to you. Like she also go through all that journey of breaking from her societal conditions and all that to be at the base of the mountain with you.
Yeah,
But
and that's what remind I mean when you say it's okay to go to hell as long as you are with your wife. Like I can resonate with that, and I think there's a certain level of that sentiment in that movie too.
yeah,
As long as you're in hell with your loved one, it's not really hell.
yeah, it's almost like if you're with your loved one, it's not possible to be in hell.
Exactly. Or if you're in hell, you handle it. You know, we deal with it.
Because like if
I think
the
everyone can
definition-
relate to that in some sense, right? Because
No,
I think in
I'm saying
Matrix,
it's not possible. I'm saying it's not possible in the way of if we say the landscape or the mechanism of hell is a rejection of love, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Then if you be with your loved
That's
one,
not
how can you
possible.
be in hell? How can you be in
Yeah,
hell?
yeah.
But if true love,
Exactly.
like so-called, then when we talk about true love, what does that mean?
Yeah, try
Well, I think that's what
being gone.
Dante's Inferno points out, right? He has to go through all the levels of hell to be able to rescue his love, and then he can, once he like
Mm.
decides to leave hell with her, he can never look back. to see if she's following him, and like I think that's something beautiful about that too.
Mm.
But yeah, I think that movie did activate something in me in terms of like a lover archetype, in terms of like just yeah, just really being able to love like a partner more deeply because of that attachment that came through.
Mm. But this is a thought that I'm curious how you guys make of it. Why do you think this movie is challenging for people to sit through? And what is it about that makes it that so-called a lot of people just say, oh man, it's a trip. But what is a trip about? I don't know. It's too trippy.
Their
Like,
ontology,
what
how
is
they
the
handle it.
barrier?
They're
Yeah, I
just
think the
living
barrier is the lack
creatures.
of narrative. I think for movies, um, narrative is actually quite important. Like having a narrative structure that people can relate to. Like you have to be able to relate it to the movie through your own lens, through your own emotion, your own life. And I don't, well, there are bits and pieces of it, right, that we can relate to. But like, in order to follow the character, his transformation throughout the whole movie, that's what keeps people interested in the movie. It's the emotional uh, connection and relatability. Without that, I think a lot of really fine art films, avant-garde films that are too experimental, ultimately don't capture audience in the way that, say, I don't know, Titanic would, right? Yeah.
But I
You
guess
can
like
have both. That's why a lot of
yeah,
there's some movies that have both, right? That
yeah,
really do a good job, like both those elements. Yeah. Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead, Yannick.
Yeah, but I mean, there's like a place for these kinds of movies that are less relatable. Like it's nice to have like these extremes of like very relatable films with like a plot that is easy to follow, and then these films that are really challenging because you need some kind of like fitness to like watch the whole thing and not get lost. And like especially nowadays, I think many people would just constantly be on their phone during that movie. Um, but yeah, I guess like the lack of relatableness and like a story that is easy to follow, you're just constantly confronted with what is happening in the movie. So you kind of have nothing to like distract yourself from the insanity that is shown. So I guess like in that way it can be more confronting than another movie that might have the same themes and might be as intense, but it has like this typical Hollywood story structure of like this protagonist that you can really relate to, and there's a lot of dialogue, and like the people behave like the way that people behave. But in this movie, it's like all the people are strange. There's no one that you can really relate to, at least for most of the duration. And it's like it's almost like it's just ideas that are shown. Um, yeah.
It kind of makes me compare it to like Requiem for a Dream, for instance, in the category of like movies that stretch your ontology or your ability to like relate with a movie, or like Everything Everywhere at Once. It's like a good comparison because you have like character sort of, you can follow a character in Everything Everywhere at Once, or multiple characters, or the cases. And so it's like that movie was easier for people to follow, and it does challenge like your sort of like understanding of reality. But like if you go to like Requiem for a Dream, for instance, it's like there's some realities that people just do not want to enter, and that represents that reality. And this one is sort of in that category too, where it's like these, each scene or each act is like not really something people were really interested in entering. Like these exploding frogs, like this guy shitting, and like he has to smell it, and it's like people, even they imagine that they have to smell somebody else's shit, like they're already making a face about it, right? So it's like, how can they watch that? And then like just all these scenes are really like, they're just meant to fuck you, and not everybody's ready to get fucked, and people don't want to get fucked.
I think that comparison between Requiem and Dream and this is kind of interesting because I think a lot of people can relate to the themes in Requiem for a Dream, actually.
Yeah, there
But
can be
they don't want to
Alice
go
in
there because they can relate to it. But this movie is like, unless you're like extremely like creative or whatever,
Right, right. I also
people
think
just really cannot relate to that, right?
if
They
you
don't think
don't
like
have
that.
yogic skills, this movie doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's almost that you are seeing the
Mm.
representation of a journey and you can identify with the movie, not the character, right? But the movie, the story, the movement imageries and the story beats. But not like the thief, sure, some part of it, but like not really a character that you would relate in a way that usually movie prompts us to relate to. But I think Requiem for a Dream is like for sure like a like an ugly watch that we don't want to revisit. But I can see Frank's pointing to like there are analysis based on that movie, but there can't be analysis on this movie because people don't know what to analyze.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Requiem for a Dream is actually quite normal in the sense that people who are addicted to drug probably know exactly what that feels like. It's not like it's not fantastical. It is, there's some fantastical elements in there, but then the raw emotion and the raw sensitivity, the sensation of being lost in addiction, it's very real for a lot of people.
Right, right, right.
It's very relatable, actually. Yeah,
I was
Yeah, I
just
think too relatable is what I was
exactly. That's why I
arguing.
think people don't want to watch that because it's too relatable.
Yeah, it's
But this one
too
is like
too
people
close.
just can't relate to it at all. Yeah, yeah.
I was just thinking of another movie. Come and See. Do you know that one? It's like a war movie from
I can look
the
it up.
80s. It's a
Cool.
Soviet film, and it's depicting like a very traumatic war experience of a child, a boy, and he's like, basically like the Nazis raid a village in Ukraine, I think, and he's present for the whole experience, and you see everything, and it's just hell basically. The film depicts like the hell of war, and there's no hero's journey in there. Absolutely nothing relatable. There's no protagonist that you like really. I mean, you can like the boy, but really it's just an experience of hell and like, yeah, just the real ugliness that is possible in this world. And, you know, I think that is a movie that's also very challenging for many people.
Mm.
And it was very intense for me also when I watched it a few years ago. It's of course like a very different topic, but in a way it reminded me of the Holy Mountain because it can be very confronting.
Right. I think if Holy Mountain, the thief never leave the space of the first third of the movie, it will probably feel like that, right? It's just in that
Yeah.
fucking deranged, degenerate war where like everything is for sale, just everything is commoditized. Never leave that, never climb that tower. It's probably gonna feel like that. Because I was prepared, oh damn, this is gonna be a movie about that. Right. But the moment that you step in the tower, it's like training, the movie feels much lighter, like significantly lighter. And by the end of it, it's just serene, right? Just mountain scenery. Yeah, it ends up really heartwarming. But it did start from
I
hell.
think it's a cool trajectory, right? Because when you look at like Hegelian dialectics, right? It's like the thesis, antithesis, and then the synthesis. In the beginning, there's hell, and then you go all the way up to the tower. That's a spiritual realm, and then you go beyond both and find the middle way that transcends both sides of that, but include, right?
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. It's kind of like he achieved the sense of perfect body, excrement turned to gold. And but the next thing though is he look at his mirror. He still don't have a soul yet. So he got a good body, but he doesn't have a person now. Right? Still lacking refinement that way. So then you see like these are the different industrialists. These what's going on in the world. Which one do you relate with? And then I see the story kind of make a beat switch because that's just not archetypical. It's the real person. So then they go on the journey together.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think one element of like having everybody go through that boot camp is probably so that like that synergy of them making that movie, like we can feel more through that like quote unquote transmission of the movies. Like there's I think it serves to like amplify the emotional impact that people will feel by just watching it. Because it wasn't just like, oh, let's just have like 9 people. Like they did the whole crew, you know. So like I think there's something like very intentional about that, very powerful about that. And I don't know, you know, how many films that would go that far. Their budget was pretty big for back then too, I think, because they had John Lennon like part of the producing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Pretty,
remember
pretty
the movie
insane to
like
get a high budget for this kind of movie. I think it would be kind of impossible to get this like a high budget for this kind of movie today.
we got
Today
AI.
people you can just like, do AI. Back then, there's no special effects, right? It's kind of that's why the movie is interesting, impressive because
AI.
they actually made all the props.
But
And
damn,
probably all the
there,
animals.
there is the Dune that after this, because after this there was interest for the next one for him, right? It's like a triple for him, the El Topo, and then Holy Mountain, and then a third one. And he wants to make Dune, and he wants to make like the planet becomes alive. This like his concept of a Dune movie is different from the original work, in which that he wants to make the planet is the Messiah, not Paul, but the planet. Like I am Dune in that way. So then he say that the planet becomes alive and then starting to spread that conscious where this singular this union of the incarnation of a person and the entire planetary field becomes sync up, and then that planet would then conquer other planets. That was the vision for his Dune movie, but it never got made. Oh, what's interesting, I think like there's only one person in the world that watched that movie was the director of Drive and Neon's Demon. Frank, you used
Oh
to,
yeah, what's his name? Nicholas something. Yeah, I used to
yeah,
like
yeah.
him a lot.
So
Who watched that movie?
he's the only person that because they made the prototype like the storyboard, a detailed storyboard with character design, scenery, shot by shot, scene by scene by scene, like that way. And so Nicholas got invited to Jodorowsky's place, and Jodorowsky flipped through that entire movie and narrate the entire movie for him. And he was like, that is that is the best movie that's never got made.
Oh, okay.
So I think he was originally one to campaign to make that version, but then they gave it to Dennis Villeneuve to make the recent Dune one.
Oh,
Before
oh,
that,
you
I
mean the
was
director
like,
for Drive?
yeah, the
He was
director
gonna
for
make it?
Drive. He was about to make it,
Mm.
but then they gave it to another guy. At first, I really liked Dune, the recent Dune, but after watching that documentary and knowing what that could be, I was like, damn, there's a waste of opportunity. It's
Mm.
much bigger than this shit. Because like in that in that way of him thinking, it's first like, okay, Holy Mountain is like a person going through that, but Dune will be the entire planet going through that.
Mm. Interesting.
Fuck, we almost got that. Oh, damn it. So they say like only $5 million. That's all they was lacking. Only $5 million, and it could be done. But they couldn't find that money. Last moment. Because the crew that was assembled to make that movie then make Aliens, make Blade Runner, make like all these different stuff. But now my question for you guys then is like, what is it about you that enable you to not just watch the movie, but to be able to extract these things? Because it's almost like we're saying, people out there, let's just say, they have a chasm of not be able to even watch it, then understand it, then appreciate it. But what is it about you guys what is it about like so-called yogis or contemplators or practitioners that made this possible? What chasm did you cross to be able to make this? Because Janik, you were saying something about a few years ago, this would be probably pretty strange, right?
Yeah, I think I would have watched it entirely, probably, because I've always been very curious and interested in art and also like stuff that's out there. But I think I would have watched it from a different place. Like it would have been very uncomfortable, probably. I think to some extent I would have enjoyed that, like feeling uncomfortable, because it would have been like a novel experience. But yeah, I think it would have made me quite uncomfortable. And I probably also would have been bored to some extent, especially like in the beginning or like in the middle when all the 9 people are are shown and their stories, because it's just like 9 stories one by one. It's like movies aren't made that way anymore today. It's kind of like obnoxious in a way, like or it can be seen that way. But yeah, I was thinking when you asked that question, like what made it possible to really watch the movie and kind of like appreciate it and extract something from it. It's kind of like doing that, which the protagonist is doing in the movie, and that is like smelling your own shit. It's like facing your own shit. I think only if you've done that, you can really just not only sit through it, but also appreciate it. And facing your own shit is kind of like, yeah, you don't really want to do it, but at the same time, if you're called to do it, then you will do it anyway. And then at some point you will realize that you've made gold out of your shit. So that's kind of like the transformative part. And yeah, I think that is really important, because I mean, you can be like spiritual and very interested in like esoteric stuff, but if you don't do like the dirty work, then you will be attached to something, and then the movie will probably trigger you in some way. So I think it's kind of like this, let's say, shadow work, emotion work aspect that is very important to ground you in such a way that you don't have too much pride or conceit around certain ideas and views.
Yeah, I mean, like the movie did a lot of kind of calling out people on their shit, right? Like the psychedelic is very obvious. Um, but I think in some ways they were also doing this thing that I was find very interesting, which is they mapped out modernity at its ugliest, but they also treat those industrialists as team members. Right? They're not doing the moralizing thing, which is like that's bad. No, like those guys then come and was about it, was like willing to do it. Even at first was coming from their greediness, let's say. But they was about it. They wanted to do it. They wanted to accomplish the holy mountain. They also don't do the thing that just like bombard you with like black pill you, like just doom mongering. But because there was also appreciation of love and beauty and serenity and the tranquility of it all. There was that aspect as well. So it's not all doom and gloomy. There was also invalidation of the entire path as well.
And
So
also the whole visceral stuff was often very colorful. So kind of like Frank's sweater. It's kind of beautiful at the same time that it is grotesque. To kind of like go beyond the duality of like ugly and beautiful and all that stuff, like good and evil. It's like to be able to see also like the beauty in the visceral scenes and the ugly stuff.
That's the thing about art, is like if something that's very disgusting and grotesque can be rendered in a way where it's almost like it doesn't matter how disgusting or ugly what's been depicted is. If you render it with skill, it's pretty impressive, right? And, yeah. There's a lot of really realistic paintings that just depicts like really like gross stuff. But then if you have the skill to render it, the whole thing about rendering, right? It's kind of weird. It's like if you render it, and then it just comes out to be like beautiful. In
yeah.
a sense, even if the things subject matter depicted can be grotesque. Yeah, it's almost like the poop in the
yeah.
gold, right?
I think there's some great line about it as well, right? Because we could also reason that, like music is a tool for beauty, divinity, but it can also like to talk about like drugs dealing, killing other guys, and like just being promiscuous.
Yeah, but when render as music, it's okay, right? Yeah.
Then it's okay. Then it's a
It's
tool
okay,
for
yeah.
hypnotization of
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's glorify, fetishize this aspect. So it's dangerous, right? It's almost that the tool to control how people think. But that's what I appreciate about this movie, which is movies most often which is entrap imagination into a fixed narrative and just condition you to think like the protagonist, even if you kind of don't resonate that much, but it does condition you. But I think this movie, there was that moment where the director talked to you, the viewer, and say, "Go live your life, bro. Go live your life. Like, be
Well,
you.
yeah,
Just be
that's,
you."
yeah, dude, that's funny because like if I go to movies, I'd rather just go into the character and just be the character for 2 hours. I don't need to think about fucking art
Yeah.
and going meta when I watch movies. Well, Alex, I wanted to ask you because before you watch it for a second time, you said this might kind of maybe go against what we're are teaching CC. You know, for those people that don't know, there's this thing called BDSM in CC, like Buddha, Dharma, Sangha as the original triple gems, but then we added the modernity, the M, like marriage, mating, modernity, or like money. So we celebrate modernity in a way where Dharma and karma collapses. Dharma just becomes invisible. And yeah, what do you think? Is this still what you think? Or because Khan just mentioned that it actually does pay homage to capitalism. It's not just complete anti-capitalism, right? Anti-modernity. There is the critique of modernity and capitalism, but there's also like the incorporation of it or the acceptance of it as being just part of the world.
Yeah. Expedient truths, right? Expedient tools to ultimately get you to your ideal destination, but the destination doesn't exactly matter in the end. It's the journey. Yeah, that's what I kind of get a feel for when I watch this movie. And it kind of yeah, you get a flavor for every aspect of real life. Both hidden and non-hidden. Yeah, a lot of parts are taken to the extreme, a lot of hyperbole in terms of what actually goes on in real life, but it still happens. If it's possible, then it's gonna happen somewhere. This particular flavor of samsara, and it's it's all mapped in all the different archetypes that is portrayed in the movie with all the planetary representations, all the like that are mapped onto the psyche of if I proliferate in this direction and I take it to the extreme
That's what it's gonna
without
look like.
yeah, see what it looks like, that's what it's gonna look like, exploding frogs or
Oh,
yeah.
that's interesting. I didn't think about that. It's almost like just taking anything to the extreme point.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
just trying to
yeah.
think what that will look
And
like.
if you just let it go without and then just like, you don't pay attention for a while and then you watch back, you give it a double take and then oh shit, it's turned into a huge mess.
I wonder if like there gonna be a holy mountain of like the current age. So 2020 something, they'll be like, I'm Elon Musk. I do blah 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 blah. And then I'm Xi Jinping. I do blah 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 blah. And then some master like you must burn your self-image, burn your money, and now we're going for the immortality. That master probably gonna be some Peter Thiel or some shit. It's
Yeah,
some
Burn
and
some bitcoins. Make a
and
bunch of
then
coin that says bitcoins on it and burn it.
yeah, and all the obscure things that Musk did, for example, with like shooting a Tesla into space and all that, you could perfectly incorporate that in the movie.
yeah. Very much a modern day industrialist, right? Like leading of an industrial. Yeah,
No, I actually think that movie is almost foreshadowing because like I was looking at like basketball shoes like back then in the 70s, 80s, whatever. Basketball shoes are quite normal, right? The colors, the schemes, and everything. But nowadays, if you go to the Nike store and look at basketball shoes, even like if you watch NBA, everything is so psychedelic. Like the uniform, the shoes. You go to watch like a high school basketball game, all their shoes are like freaking trippy as fuck. Because the reality is like trippy as fuck right now. Everyone is experimenting with psychedelics. Awakened Andwale is becoming mainstream. But then that was like, okay, this is what the world is gonna look like. At least the feel of it, like everything is just so trippy nowadays.
Yeah, that
Everything's
scene with
about going meta, right?
the customizable guns, right? What was
yeah,
yeah. It reminds me of Counter-Strike, where you can get
yeah.
skin spree guns.
Mhm.
Make it pink, make it have Hello Kitty.
Yeah.
Yeah, or programming children for war,
Hmm.
like just condition them for violence, but targeted violence.
Yeah. Only Peru.
I mean, that's what Call of Duty and all these video games. I mean, they're like then you learn how to fly a drone, and then it's like all this very much the same. You're using Xbox controllers to fly drones to kill people now. I mean, it's like exactly that.
Yeah, and also like games like GTA, where you can just do insane stuff. You can just take a Lambo and drive through the crowds, and you just laugh about it. And it's like you kind of can use this simulation to try out what it could be like to do like this level of insanity, like outrageous stuff,
Right.
without having to do it actually.
Mm.
It's also kind of
It-
interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like a flex too, right? Like a cosmic or artistic flex. Because like, why do you do that movie? Because you can't. I can push my brain, my creativity to this level, and it doesn't have to please you. It doesn't have to be anything. It's just a flex. It's like a status symbol almost that you can look at from that lens too. Yeah.
Mm.
All right, so next week we're gonna talk about Annihilation.
Yeah, we'll talk about Annihilation.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. Yeah.
Talk about the journey of crossing the chasm. But that's I think
Mm,
it's also a territory that some of our folks in the boot camp is going through. But yeah, oh, wait a minute. But I was also asking that for so Janik just answered. What about for Alex and Tim? What made you guys kind of cross whatever chasm that now this is just, oh, this is just my life. Whatever my life is, Holy Mountain makes sense. So that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like, how come the vast amount of majority of people out there can't even watch it, let alone normalize this movie?
Oh, I think for me, it's just my disposition.
Oh, in which way? In which way?
I mean, I remember shock sites back in the day, early internet.
E-bomb.
Yeah, or like Two Girls, One Cup.
Uh,
Oh yeah, Two Girls, One Cup. I remember
kind
that.
of
Like
like
I actually
shocking,
rewatched it.
grotesque.
I rewatched it like a year ago or something.
Yeah,
I don't.
I guess I was not attracted to it, like attracted to showing people and ontologically shocking others. Like once I got the shock, I want to spread it to others. That's
Yeah,
my
same. I can
mentality.
relate to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know. In that process, I kind of got, I don't know, I wouldn't say addicted, but like it just led me down to getting more and more shocked by reality, different versions of reality. And so I think at this point, everything feels pretty normal. So when I was watching The Holy Mountain this time around, I wasn't really shocked at all by any particular scenery. Yeah, none of the scenes. It was like, yeah, this is real life.
Yeah, that's something. Sometimes I used to talk about how I used to be like so much about mind fucking, but then with awakening, it's like the universe just mind fucks itself through and through to the nth degree that nothing's mind fucking anymore. Which means like everything's kind of mind fucking because you can literally look at a grass or a cup of water and just see the whole universe. There's that
Yeah,
element too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What about for you, Tim?
Mhm. Yeah, I think going beyond good and evil, because I think assimilating me in the past, because I remember watching like Spaceballs, not a movie in this category at all, but it was kind of like nonsensical, and it was just like, oh, like all these random scenes, like I don't really enjoy it. And then like it's kind of goes in the category of like movies that I could watch when I'm high, but like not sober. And it's like, why is that? And it's like I just don't have the capacity to deal with the amount of random shit that's happening or seemingly random things that are happening. Even though like back then I was very interested in the occult and the esoteric and like ritual, especially and just magic and things like that, the subconscious. I would follow it, but I know that like once I got to like beyond that point in the movie, I'd probably get bored. And I think the difference beyond that shock factor that would make me feel like, oh, like these are things are good or these things are bad, and like I don't necessarily know what to make out of all this that I'm making myself watch, like this good and bad stuff, is um, like this neutral curiosity that I can sustain through like pretty much anything, but especially this movie is like I'm curious. Like I'm curious, like what the hell is this director trying to show? And that there seems to be a high degree of intentionality. Like even if there's random shit, like there's a high degree of intentionality. So what is the message? Like so I have that curiosity, but it's also neutral in the sense of like whatever I'm experiencing, I'm not like gripped by that experience that enough so that it would create some sort of I don't know, visceral reaction that would detract me from my movie or like take my attention away from the movie, so I can stay with that movie and really unpeel what is coming into me through this movie. And I think through that it's enjoyable and actually enlightening.
That's
I
so
think a lot
interesting.
of, sorry, I was gonna comment on what Tim said about why people getting triggered, because a lot of people have this morality campus that never question. They think that reality ought to be a certain way. You know, in the book, and we talked about taking the is and then making it into an ought. And then, but with this training, it's like you can just take the isness as the isness, no matter how fucked up it is. Like sometimes I say, Adyashanti said, like, if you can sum up enlightenment in one sentence, it would be like the ability to just not resist reality as it is. Yeah. Yeah. So if you have that capacity, then your mind wouldn't go to places where you feel like your moral or ethical compass is getting triggered. You can just take in the sensory stimulus, no matter how intense it is, as it is. And you don't wish reality to be any different than the way it is. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Which also doesn't mean that with insight you become like a amoral person. Like
No, not at all.
you,
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
you wouldn't just start murdering people like, oh, it's just what it is. Like that
yeah.
again would be like more like psychopathic.
Bypassing.
Yeah, bypassing. But it's just like seeing that aspect of reality, like just seeing it for what it is, kind of like
Mhm.
enables a more loving, uh, intimate relationship with it all, which then in turn can also express more as compassion because you have more capacity for that than before.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm. Cool movie. I was about to say, like, I was doing some analysis about what problems people have on the path, and then based on a lot of CC materials, I was finding the resonance, how much resonance people have with these things, so that we are finalizing some free course to be sent out later on. But the extremely high resonance would be things like life versus awakening. Like life on one side, awakening on the other side. I must quit life to go to awakening. That's like the big problem. It's like I have all these things. How do I handle with the desire to awaken? The
You
second
gotta
is
go to the mountain, right?
Holy Mountain. Yeah.
Gotta find the holy mountain. Yeah.
The second thing is like intellectual gridlock, where people just read about awakening, but then kind of get further confused about it. Or another one is because of that, like life is not good. It should be different. Awakening is different from this. And I must read about what awakening is, and I want to try stuff. But because it's the fundamental basis is splitting between awakening and life, and then whatever you read, it's just further that split. So then people say nothing works. So then another high one is that this is the basics. This is the basis of people's path. And then they do techniques. They go on retreats and blah blah blah, blah these things. But then they say things like practice is inconsistent. Inside can be locked down and like integrate. And I can't find realized teacher. Right? But then they don't see that, yeah, because they split between life and awakening, essentially they close their mind in certain ways. Right? And because they have a lot of expectation what realization looks like, never open to, connect with other people and maybe like, I don't know, maybe you can just start with reading the Bible. I mean, it's probably accessible, right? Or whatever sutra that you get recommended to. But then people just lock themselves into this very small understanding or small expectation or image about what realization should look like. And a more moderate fear is like, I think this is the fear when people actually have to practice. And then what do they say the problem is? Like fear of emptiness, fear of the other side, where they're about to like, they are climbing, but now it's like, oh shit, things are going down. Or like the war suffering, everything that's going on in the world, what can I do about it? And they got overwhelmed by it. Like, okay, so now what? You know what to do.
You gotta rub your clitoris on the mountain.
What's that?
I say you gotta rub your clitoris on the mountain.
Oh yeah, yeah. The person did do that. And calling and passion. What's my calling? What's my passion? How can I follow it and while align with the path? But what I'll point out though is based on everything that we interacted with the external audience, the lowest thing, the least relatable quality, the problem is that people aren't curious. Because there is a statement, I have no particular goals. I just want to learn more and find a place to discuss about these things. That's all. When I make this statement to see how much resonance it has with all the data that we have, like public practice week, public coaching, all those things, that's the least amount of resonance because people have certain goals that's very concrete, right? And then based on that goals, they want to find technique that can fulfill that goal, but they never really question that the goal itself may be the split between life and awakening. There's always that split. But once it's kind of cohere together, we can just like, hop on a Zoom live stream on YouTube and just talking about whatever. And the Holy Mountain is literally here. That's kind of trippy in that way. Because you're just curious a little bit. This is not that far, especially nowadays.
Yeah, that's the problem with modernity, right? It's like you have a solution for everything. So if you have a solution for everything, then there's a doctrine, and then with all that is a very limited scope of actually how to understand something. And there's no like deriving things from first principles is not really a thing. So people are just like, because of that, then they have this issue of like just being worried about being scammed, just being wary of like, just being set up for something. So they can only trust themselves, but they're not set up to actually discern like how to scope these things out to really understand what they want and how to get it.
Yeah, then they can become frozen in their own conception, right? They conceive of a world with its own like fears, and some of those fears could be like legit rational, but it's the thing that they keep paying attention to. They can't, make decisive move to do something about it. I think they're calling it's a learned helplessness. You become agitated, but you can't do anything. So you just stay there. That's one of the things I appreciate about Jodorowsky work is I think he has this quality of a lion. There's an aspect of that ferociousness about his direction. I just don't give a fuck. Let's do it. I think that's the aspect that I appreciate about it. Yeah. But, okay. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. We have more movies to go through and also accompany with on the phases in the boot camp. I think we're doing CC, like I'm saying, also building a new course. But shout out Holy Mountain, shout out Jodorowsky. There's also the Dance of Reality autobiographical book here. There's many comic book that he's also produced. I got 2 here. Shout out. People can like this one is also intense. Yannick also has. Oh, that's
Lost in
Lupin.
Faith. That's German. Lost in Faith.
Less than fate. Yeah. So it's always great to be able to talk about beauty, art, and movies. So thank you guys so much. Ending the call now, ending the live stream on YouTube. But I'll be seeing you guys around. Take care.